This is going to be another special session. We have with us today the esteemed co-founder and partner of CORP LLP as our esteemed speaker for the session. The topics covered, the topic that we are going to be covering in this one is DCPR 2034 Simplified. Ladies and gentlemen, with over 23 years of experience in architectural design, redevelopment planning, and MCGM approvals, he has made significant contributions to Mumbai's redevelopment landscape and has played an active role in policy initiatives related to CEST building redevelopment in the island city. He is currently serving as the chairman of the city subcommittee of PEATA and is widely respected for his practical insights, transparent approach, and commitment to sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, no brownie points for guessing. I'm talking about architect Milind Changani ji. Can we please have Mr. Changani over here on stage? Thank you so much, sir. And we love the spontaneity that you showed by also adding a bit of insights in the previous session. So that has only gotten the crowd all the more excited. Can you all clap it up for him a little louder, please? Thank you. And sir, over to you.
Are you able to hear me?
Can you all hear me loud and clear? Him?
Hi, good morning everyone. How are you? All good? So thank you, Smart. I think this is a beautiful initiative and knowledge is key, knowledge is power. So in the presentation that I'm going to cover today, it's about DCPR 2034. Generally, पूरे regulation को समझने के लिए पूरा दिन कम पड़ता है. 45 minutes is not going to be justice to it. So if I can get a sense of how many are realtors from South Bombay? Oh, fantastic. A lot of them. So a lot of you deal with either CEST buildings, societies, and cluster development. Am I correct in understanding? Yes. Fantastic. Okay. So I think Anil gave a very beautiful presentation before me on the overall structured program, on how the redevelopment process and technicalities happen. This session, we are going to go much more into the detailed aspect of it slightly. I will run a few slides because the presentation is going to be shared with you, so you may use that, but I'll use more time for interaction between us. Next. Oh, can I have the slide? Oh. So I think a lot of this is already covered by Anil, so I will not get much into it. But what you have to understand is generally redevelopment, you need buildings of more than 30 years of age. Okay, if it's a society development, if it's a tenanted building, it's much more of in terms of the age factor. So all the other factors I think is already covered by Anil before this, so I'll not repeat. Documentation is very important. I think this is somewhere we miss a lot. A lot of time even developers come to us, PR card लेके आते, CS plan लेके आते, society ने इतना ही दिया, हमको feasibility चाहिए. Cannot work. I think let's put our foot down slightly. हम लोग भाजी पाला लेने नहीं निकले हैं. We are here to redevelop. We are here to do a project nothing less than 100 crore to 1,000 crores or 5,000 crores. So documentation is very important. Whether it's your PR card, CTS plan, your maps, DP remark, city survey remark, mutation entries, conveyance, lease. Why lease? Very important. Sometimes it is BMC lease, sometimes it is collector lease, sometimes it is private lease. Are you able to hear me? So are you able to hear me now from the behind? Perfect. So what you have to understand that these are the basic property documents that you must insist, whether it is society, whether it is landlord, whether it is any form of development. If you don't insist these documents coming to you, you can't get a good feasibility report. Sometimes as a PMC also when you go to societies, they expect us to do our introduction and come up with a feasibility report. I mean, that is quite stupid. They don't provide the data, but they expect the feasibility report. If it's a landowner, it's very important to know what are their title documents, whether they encumbrances, whether they have any court orders with the tenants, titles, or what are the family trees, because we don't know whom we are dealing with. It's very complex in city as well as suburbs sometimes. Even from the tenants, you need certain documentation. These are the basic checklists, whether it's rent receipts, their leave-in license or their tri-party agreement, electricity bill, property tax, Aadhaar. किससे consent लेना, अगर वही गलती कर ली, तो आगे का कुछ होगा नहीं. So you have to have your basic documentation. But the first slide that I showed you before this, that is basic for your feasibility report. It is required. Redevelopment process we've already gone through, but I think on the left side we must know a few things. In city, we have land ownership by collector, by MADA, by BMC, by private guys, from Madhya Pradesh government, from some other governments. So all these guys are owning lands in Bombay. So we have to know who is the right owner of the land, who is the lessor of the land, because accordingly certain costs are involved in the feasibility report. If it's BMC, there are certain costs. If it's collector, it is certain costs. So if you don't identify what your land ownership is, it's going to make a huge difference. Which is your planning authority, whether it's going to be MADA, SRA, BMC, whether it is leasehold. So all these factors come into play when you're doing a feasibility report, and we are trying to guide the society in the process of redevelopment. Now, I'm going to give you a compact version of the DCPR so that we are able to have more time for Q&A. I'm going to go through few regulations in detail also. I'm going to go through 33.7, 7A, 7B, 9, 11, 20, 23, if we get the time for all of this. And in the end, I'm going to show you combination of schemes. आज बॉम्बे में कोई एक रेगुलेशन से रीडेवलपमेंट नहीं होता. 2 रेगुलेशन तो मिनिमम ज्वाइन हो जाते हैं, कभी कभी 3 भी रेगुलेशन ज्वाइन हो जाते हैं. So whether it is regulation 30, 33.7, 33.7 is mainly for cess buildings, where you get an FSI of 3 or incentive. 33.7B, you may get up to 3 in city, 2.7 in suburbs, based on road width FSI. 33.9, you have 4 FSI plus incentive, but ultimately there is no cap in cluster. Let me tell you, I'll explain that later. 11 up to 4 FSI, 12B up to 4 FSI, 19 up to 5 FSI, 20B up to 4 FSI, and 23 is up to 7.5 FSI. Okay? And 20B can be done in combination with any of the regulations. Today 20B has been approved with a cluster development, 20B has been approved with a slum development, 23 I meant, TOD, transit oriented development, has been approved with a cluster, has been approved with a regular society development, has been approved with an SRA project. So enhancing your FSI is one aspect depending upon the size of the plot, the scale of the type of the road that is available to you. A lot of parameters are available, and we'll look into some of them very detailed. So 33.7, we'll start with some basics. 33.7 is basically cess buildings. Cess buildings मतलब जो 61 के पहले के repair cess tenanted landlord old buildings से और tenanted buildings से. These are the buildings which are called cess buildings. You get an FSI of 3 or incentive. There is something called decessed, where you get, they were पहले cess थे, फिर society बन गई. If they are still paying repair cess, they will remain cess. But sometimes they go to the government, they don't want to pay repair cess, so they get decessed. तो उनको 2.5 plus incentive मिलता है. और buildings of corporation, मतलब अगर BMC tenanted properties है, where BMC is a landlord and it has a lot of these large parcels of land of development today in Bombay are BMC owned lands. And believe me, if you guys can tap into that, corporates are looking for people who can resolve ground level issues, which today developers are doing, even channel partners can look into, even realtors can look into. So a lot of options are available for redevelopment today. This is a slide on carpet area. Carpet area in certain redevelopment schemes is not RERA. It may be a shocker to you, but even in society redevelopment, if you go in cluster development, the carpet area to be given to the members is under MOFA indirectly. Similarly, in 33.7, the carpet area that you are supposed to give to them is kind of MOFA. It's not RERA even after redevelopment. And on the right side, if you see a table, the eligibility of the existing area, very important, क्योंकि आपने अगर existing area सही नहीं पकड़ा तो incentive गलत रहेगा, surplus गलत रहेगा, सब कुछ गलत रहेगा. In city, carpet area of a member is not just the area within a flat or the balcony, but also the common area, the staircase and the passage is proportionately added to his flat. So ऐसे ही उसका 10-15% बढ़ जाता है. उसके ऊपर अगर आपने उसको 35% पूरा दिया तो almost 45-50% आप उसको ऑफर दे सकते हो without anything going from your pocket. क्लस्टर में तो और ज़्यादा हो जाता है. That's why you see absurd offers coming. You feel it's absurd, but it's not absurd. It is part of the regulation. This table deals with FSI. DCPR was published on 8th May 2018. There were certain incentives, certain FSI on that date. on 8 July 2021 in 33.7 and 33.9 the incentives were enhanced. However, the new regulation on the right side that you see are applicable in non-CRZ areas. Why? Because in CRZ in 2019 when the GR came, it said that the regulation as on date is applicable to CRZ. Matlab, outside CRZ new regulations, new FSI changes are applicable. Within CRZ the old regulations are applicable. That's why a lot of redevelopment in Bombay ask for offers in dual mode. अगर CRZ का rules change हुआ तो मेरी offer क्या, CRZ का rules change नहीं हुआ तो मेरी offer क्या. So it makes the tendering process more complicated. A lot of these buildings are doing tendering, coming to a DA stage and stopping their work. Because greed never stops. You want more area, so they expect कि भाई rules change होंगे तो हम लोग उसके हिसाब से benefit उठाएंगे. Same thing happens even in cluster development. The regulation, old regulation has lesser incentive, the new regulation has more incentive, but it is applicable only in non-CRZ. We will skip some of the slides. In cess properties, cess के साथ अगर non-cess होते हैं, for example 69 के पहले के कोई society buildings भी वही plot के अंदर है, single plot के अंदर, and it is prior to 69, then that is also treated as a cess for FSI 3. Incentive case है तो incentive नहीं मिलता. It's a very complicated thing, so one has to go to a PMC for going the right feasibility report, but you must know the basics of it. (33.7) also allows 12B. Now आज के तारीख में 33.12 regulation to be clubbed, not 12B, 12A or 12B as a regulation itself. But आज के तारीख में 12A और 12B दोनों थोड़े suspended है. It's a PAP scheme which are coming in the alignment of road. बंद पड़े हुए हैं, काफ़ी सारे schemes चालू होके काम बंद पड़ गया है because उनको 12B के tenements नहीं मिल रहे हैं. So anyways, this particular regulation is under you can say churning and it will take some time to mature it out further. This is a very interesting regulation in 33.7 and only in 33.7. Two 33.7 schemes. One is not able to consume FSI because of heritage, defense, railway buffer or any other height restriction, not because of your planning, it is not your choice. But because of these restrictions, if it's not able to consume the FSI, that 33.7 can give its FSI to another 33.7 in a 10-kilometer radius. The receiving plot does not have a cap. There is no cap of 4 FSI. Even on a 9-meter road, I can go 4.55, but it should be reasonable. You see, concessions are a prerogative of the BMC to approve or not to approve. So if you have a large plot, if you have a good road dimensions, you can really exceed the FSI. FSI is the limit. Matlab, there is no limit to that FSI kahan se la sakte. So this particular regulation is only applicable in city and for 33.7 projects only. And this is a beautiful regulation, makes the project more viable in any scenario. If you are doing two projects in 33.7, one is a 3 FSI, one is an incentive. पहले ऐसा था कि either दोनों का 3 मिलेगा या दोनों का incentive मिलेगा. अभी rule change हो गया है. जो plot का जो ज़्यादा था वो मिलेगा. So you can amalgamate the plots for planning, but for FSI you can work out independently. So that way you get maximum benefits under 33.7 in city plots. 7A, somebody was asking about tenanted with society. So if the tenanted buildings are declared C1, which our previous speaker was also harping upon, that if it's declared C1, you can go under 33.7A. Benefit being 50% incentive FSI free मिलेगी. Normally नहीं तो आपको road with FSI खरीदनी पड़ती है, कम से कम 50% FSI free मिलेगी और उतना आपका cost कम हो गया. Plus वो ratio जो 50% incentive उसकी जो premiums है, वो 1/10 है compared to regular development. So your cost is down, your FSI is free, your project becomes more viable. But if you do this, you need 51% consent of your members. You have to provide them minimum 300 square feet. So all those parameters come into play. So whenever you decide कि भाई मेरे साथ land society के साथ tenants है, we have to identify which scheme we are going in. Accordingly, those regulations apply to you. Whether उनकी consent लगेगी नहीं लगेगी, उनको क्या minimum area देना पड़ेगा, उनको fungible देना पड़ेगा नहीं देना पड़ेगा, वो सब चीज़ें depends on the regulation that you go for. The feasibility report, I think I'll keep it in the PDF which is going to be circulated to you. It's a more of a theory based. Of course, today you also have a session of AI on feasibility report. So this is not something I'm going to go much in detail because काफी technical है. It's going to be slightly boring. Sorry. 33.7b. 33.7b society redevelopment. Very little incentive. Either 15% of built up area or 10 square meter per tenement is hardly anything. Remaining FSI you can buy from road with FSI or a combination of scheme of either 3311 or 20B. अगर आप 3311 करने का सोच रहे हो तो 7B नहीं कर सकते. Please note, whenever you go to SRA, you have to go under either 3310 or 3311. You cannot do combination with 7B. So a lot of times people make a mistake when they come up with the feasibility report. हम 7B के साथ 11 करना चाहते हैं, नहीं हो सकता. 7B के साथ 11 इसलिए नहीं होता क्योंकि BMC does not allow SRA to come up with their schemes on their schemes. So this incentive is then lost and you have to go purely under 3311. For 7B, your building should be minimum 30 years of age. The remaining process is as under 79A. The reason to skip some of these slides is we need to have more time for Q&A and important topics. The next topic is cluster development. I think this is the flavor of the season. Everywhere you are seeing cluster development happening. The big difference is in society redevelopment जब आप करते हो with 7B and road with FSI, maximum offer 25%, 35%, at the most 40% if it's some prime area. Cluster development, believe me, in the worst of the areas, we've got 55% as a minimum area and at places 100 to 110%. Because the law itself provides for adequate more area to be given to the members by law itself. I mean, nothing goes from your pocket to give it to them. The reason being, the carpet area definition is no more RERA for them, for the existing members, it is MOFA. Your carpet area within the flat, plus the balcony, excluding the walls, plus common area in case of city, plus table A benefits and other benefits. So whichever scheme redevelopment you are going into, you must know what carpet area definition you fall into. Because these are the basic questions any society members will ask you. The criteria for cluster: city 4,000 meters minimum plot size, suburbs 6,000 meters minimum plot size, minimum 12-meter roads falling within 18 meters, 500 meters of an 18-meter road, and a building should be at least 30 years old and should be authorized. A lot of buildings can be taken under cluster development. The biggest benefit of cluster is आप एक ही multiple plots को आप जोड़ सकते हो, माड़ा का plot, SRA का plot, cess plots, society plots, reservation, designation, all under one. And you can do cluster development and you can get full benefit of the entire scheme. Normally slum को अगर non slum के साथ जोड़ना है तो आपको SRA में जाना पड़ता है for their specific schemes. In cluster, up to 50% of the plot area you can have a slum. अगर 10,000 मीटर का plot है तो 5,000 मीटर का slum हो सकता है. उसके साथ cess buildings हो सकती है, उसके बाद non cess buildings हो सकती है, उसके बाद माड़ा के कुछ plots है वो ऐड कर सकते हो, different agencies के plots ऐड कर सकते हो, central government के agencies के plot adjust करते हो. Normally, otherwise माड़ा you have to do 33.5. Central agency plots are different schemes of regulations. You have to do different set of regulations. Here, all of that comes into under one regulation, under one umbrella. Okay. The biggest question comes कि भाई मेरी society 5,000 मीटर की है, लेकिन हमारा एक single building है, क्या हम cluster कर सकते हैं? Like some places in like आजू-बाजू में अपना Jupiter है, Venus है, they are big plots. But single building, they can't go under cluster development because cluster says very clearly buildings होने चाहिए. Plot single चलेगा, पर buildings होने चाहिए. So the left side sketch, if you have a single plot, 2 buildings, you can do it. Some people come and tell us, हमारे staircase separate है लेकिन building joint है, क्या चलेगा? नहीं चलेगा. Because that comes under the definition of a wing of a building and not buildings. Your buildings have to be separate buildings. तब जाके cluster development में आप उसे ले सकते हो. So even if you satisfy the criteria of plot, you may have a 10,000 meter plot, but if you have a single building or if you have a group of buildings which are joined by a dead wall, you are still not allowed cluster development. These are critical issues because people assume things will happen, but ultimately when it goes to high power committee and BMC, it does not happen. Can cluster be done across roads? Yes. We have done many clusters across the roads. Your plot was more than 4,000 and setback जा रहा है और आपका plot 4,000 से कम हो रहा है. Can we do cluster development? Yes and no. Yes, if that setback was built up upon, मतलब वो setback के ऊपर भी structures है, तो आप ले सकते हो क्योंकि then it's gross plot FSI concept. पर अगर setback पे structure नहीं है, open space है और उसके बाद माइनस करने के बाद 4,000 से कम जा रहा है प्लॉट एरिया, तो HPC उसको कंसिडर नहीं कर रही है. Theoretically, as far as I am concerned, the DCPR allows gross plot for criteria, but still the high power committee does not accept it. No, minimum 12 meters, and that too 12 meters must be existing, not proposed road. 18 meters can be proposed road or 18 meters can be within 500 meters of a 12 meter road. पर कोई बोलेगा मेरा रोड कहीं पे भी 9 मीटर है, अब मेरे रोड प्लॉट के सामने 12 मीटर है, चलेगा? नहीं चलेगा. द 12 मीटर रोड जो आपको प्लॉट के सामने चाहिए हैज टू कनेक्ट टू अ लार्जर रोड और इक्वल रोड क्लियरली. कहीं पे भी उसको अगर कंस्ट्रक्शन आ गया, क्लस्टर डेवलपमेंट नहीं होगा. Cluster can be augmented in any direction. You can do cluster development across the road provided it is facing each other. But if it is not facing each other, one or two cases have happened in the past, but now no more they are accepting. It should have some continuity of the boundary. So these are the guidelines for the tenancy. 96 के पहले का tenancy का proof चाहिए. All that thing can be worked out in detail later on and some other seminar probably. Cluster is something where it itself takes 2-3 hours to explain. Critical component, 51% consent either building wise or it is not both, or 60% overall. मतलब आपके पास scheme में 4 buildings है, एक में 30% है और 3 में 70% है. It will qualify because average should be 60. और या आपके पास नहीं है 60 तो बिल्डिंग वाइज 51% चाहिए. सो एनी वन क्राइटेरिया हैज टू बी satisfied and not both. Plot owners consent of at least 70%. What does this mean? That you've got 10 plots in your cluster. Today you have development agreement of 7 plots. 3 plots are under negotiation, finalization. They are almost ready. You are ready to take them, but you don't have the time to wait for high power committee. It's called a 70-30 rule. If you have 70% ownership with you, 30% के लिए आपको 1 साल का time दिया जाएगा from the date of LOI. But do not misuse this rule to take a 30% plot who is not willing to come. Rule allows, but don't misuse the rule. Moment you start misusing the rules will change. Very important, again, carpet area definition. If you're doing under cluster development for the existing members, the way the documentation has to be done has to be as per the DCPR. And the DCPR says carpet area for existing / rehabilitation. That means आज का एरिया का सर्टिफिकेशन और कल जो आपको एरिया मिलेगा उसका सर्टिफिकेशन, दोनों उसी के पहले देना होता है, पर वो ये फॉर्मेट में होगा, विच इज कार्पेट एरिया इंक्लूडिंग बालकनी. आप अगर सोसाइटी रीडेवलपमेंट करते हो, यू मस्ट हैव रियलाइज के बालकनी माइनस करके करना पड़ता है क्योंकि FSI उसके ऊपर से फिर मिलती है. वेयर इन क्लस्टर इवन इफ द बालकनी वॉज फ्री, इट इज एडेड एज पार्ट ऑफ क्लस्टर. तो एक तो उसके ऊपर 35 भी मिल गया. दूसरा है कॉमन कार्पेट एरिया. दैट मीन्स passage and staircase. Now the common misconception is it free in both city and suburbs? Not directly. If the passage and staircase was counted in FSI earlier, then only it is divided proportionately. If it was given free, तो नहीं मिलता. For example, city में 1989 तक सारे staircase passage count in FSI थे, लेकिन 95 में किसी ने lift डाल दी बाहर से, वो free मिली उसको, तो वो add नहीं होगी. Similarly, in suburbs from 71 to 89, it was always free. So buildings prior to 71 in suburbs will also get this benefit. That means एक तो balcony का benefit मिला 10%, फिर common carpet area का benefit मिला. Then there is something called table A. Table A depends upon the cluster size. You have to give compulsorily to the members. So you got already benefit of 10, another 10, 20, and this is from 10 to 35%. मतलब without fungible 30 से 35% का benefit तो वैसे उसको compulsory देना है. उसके ऊपर फिर fungible. मतलब between 50 to 80% average in a good area offers are easily received in cluster development. If it's a very prime area, it goes all the way to 100% because nothing is lost from the pocket. This is the table A we were talking about. The bottom table is something that was modified after 8th of July. The plot area criteria has changed. मतलब पहले जब तक 1 हेक्टेयर का प्लॉट नहीं होता तब तक उसको 15% का बेनिफिट नहीं मिलता था. 1 हेक्टेयर इज 10,000 स्क्वायर मीटर्स. Now it's made 4,000 to 5,000 10%, 5,000 to 1 hectare 15%, 1 hectare to 2 hectares 20%, and so on till 35%. So this is apart from fungible. So पहले आपको balcony का benefit मिला, फिर common carpet area का benefit मिला, and thereafter you got the benefit of table A. That means 35-40% आपको ऐसे ही मिल गया, फिर आपको fungible देना है. Fungible is not compulsory to give, but if you are giving, it should be equitable. Law of equity rights applicable out there. You can't give 1% 40%, 1% 35%, ऐसा नहीं होता. Fungible आपको सभी को समांतर देना होता है. But because of this, getting an offer of 50 to 60% under cluster development is the easiest thing. So whenever we as a PMC bring together buildings, we try to explain them. You can go in 11, but you will get this offer. You can go in 20B, you can get this offer. But if you go in cluster with neighboring guys, your offer jumps. And and area is your asset of future. Rent, corpus are all is just a hardship. Rent is hardship allowance. Corpus is just for maintenance. But your real asset in life that you're making is because of area. So think carefully. Give yourself time. Don't say I don't want to go with that building. I don't want to go with that building. Benefit is together, but once you come together, you can't say I'm two different societies. Now you are one because the FSI is floated. So whenever societies also come to us, can we have our own society? Can we have our own identity? No. Once you've come together in cluster, you've become one identity. You may have separate administration, but you are one entity. Even the incentive on 8th of July based on LR upon CR. What is LR? Land rate upon construction rate. तो उसका एक रेशियो निकालना पड़ता है. वो रेशियो के हिसाब से और आपके प्लॉट एरिया के हिसाब से आपको मिनिमम 85% to 130% इंसेंटिव मिलता है. तो if you have consumed an FSI of 1.33 for example in city or 1 in suburbs plus 10% balcony plus other parameters and table A, most schemes 95%, 90% of the schemes are becoming incentive. Even in suburbs, because your minimum, sometimes the flat areas were lesser, 180 फुट के रूम थे, 200 फुट के रूम थे, उनको minimum 35 स्क्वायर मीटर देना पड़ता है, plus table A benefit, plus other things. Those schemes, we have done a cluster in Parla, and it is an incentive scheme of 8 FSI. So you can imagine the benefits of cluster development is way higher in terms of the FSI component. But yes, you have to go for environment approval, you have to go for sustainability and all the other parameters once you go for these kind of development. Yeah, sorry. 3311, the most flavorsome as far as suburbs is concerned. Bandra, Parla, Santa Cruz area, 3311 ही बोलता है. South Bombay also, we've done schemes like Miami under 3311 because the cost is cheapest, premiums are lowest, FSI is 4 compared to 20B, which is the sister regulation of 11. In 3311, the number of PAP generated are less because you get slum benefits. The component factor per member per tenement is based on SRA regulations compared to 20B, which is just 300 square feet flats plus into 1.2. Common carpet area ka benefit comes only in clubbing schemes, but not in other schemes. The other benefit of 3311 is if you do 3311 in the combination with 3310, city to city you can transfer, eastern to eastern you can transfer, western to western you can transfer. जबकि 20B के अंदर आपको 5 किलोमीटर का रेंज लगता है, either same ward, abutting ward or 5 kilometer range. But if you are doing 3311 with another 3311 scheme, then again it is same ward, abutting ward or 5 kilometer. Fortunately, one of the projects we did, we were able to give Pedder Road ka PAP in Mazgaon, which is much more than 5 kilometers. And all you have to do is pay the difference of premium of the RR, which is just 40%. वो easily परवड़ता है. So the whole project feasibility goes for an absolute boom. So if you can't do cluster, your next best alternative for high value projects is 11. Planning authority will be SRA in this case. This is the basic FSI pattern. Minimum road width required is 12 meters and 18 meters. In city, the distribution of incentive FSI is 63 and 37. मतलब आपने 63% PAP बनाया तो 33% सेल मिलेगा. In suburb, it's almost like 1:1. Up till now in city was a very hot cake. You can take structures coming in the alignment of road. There were a lot of benefits. You can trade in those. Legal opinion was taken that you can buy those tenements. You can trade those tenements. You can amalgamate those tenements. All those things were taken. But currently BMC has put it on a hold. It feels that it's being misused. It's not being properly implemented. But the biggest benefit of 12B was on a 9-meter road also FSI 4 theoretically can be given. Theoretically. BMC didn't give it in suburbs and a lot of the projects. But theoretically, even on a 9-meter road, up to 4 FSI could be taken. Especially 33.7 benefited a lot, because 33.7 on 9-meter road was allowed to take one more FSI in many cases and go up to 4 FSI. Feasibility उसी से आती थी, बाकी 33.7 से आती ही नहीं थी. I will go with the certain provisions or regulations brought in. अगर 33.7 के साथ करते हैं, you see there is a lot of things like gross plot, net plot. Most FSI in suburbs will be net plot unless it is 20B or 11, which then becomes gross plot. But in 12B, they came up with the clarification that 33.7 because it is gross plot, you will get 33.7 on gross plot, and 12B 1 on full net plot. So it was a good beneficial thing. ये तो खाली net के ऊपर 4 करते और 7 का ही FSI उससे ज़्यादा हो जाता था. Again, carpet area definitions are different in. So this is the bottleneck policy which the 12B that they are supposed to identify 3 roads, do the whole process and all that. It's still being formulated. But what is the most important is the, the legal opinion. BMC in the past, a lot of people ask us, can we buy this 12B? Can we amalgamate this 12B? So BMC themselves took a legal opinion from Senior Counsel Shri Milind Changani. The first question was, does the Slum Act applicable to 12B? He said negative. That means the Slum Act is not applicable, therefore those restrictions of Slum Act is not applicable. Whether it is a 10-year period, just because they are slums, doesn't mean those restrictions are applicable because it is not part of Slum Act. The second question was asked to him, if you read, after completing the process and taking over the possession and after demolition of the structure, can he sell, transfer, assign? He said, in the affirmative, you can sell, transfer, assign 12B units. The third question was, can you amalgamate such units to a single unit or bigger flat? In the affirmative. So Sate Saab's opinion was then sent to UD department. UD said this opinion is correct. So this is not a decision by BMC, but this was a BMC decision ratified by UD. However, the policy right now is in abeyance. Not abeyance, you can say process delay. Yeah, that was a UD clarification obtained, which says that we are agreeing with this opinion, we have no objection to it. Another interesting regulation 3319, we need lot more commercial development today coming up. We're seeing developers buying full societies, vacating them and doing 3319, which is complete commercial development. You are getting an FSI of 3, 4 and 5 based on road width. Good sales are happening, good demand is there in certain areas. Commercial development has again come down in terms of ratio of residential to commercial. So this is something also, if certain societies want to vacate, developers can look into 3319 as a mode of development. Try to understand if your plot has reservation, designation और any such existing amenity, like आज के तारीख में cinema theater है, तो ना 19 होगा, ना 11 होगा, ना 20 भी होगा. On these three regulations cannot be done on any plot which has reservation, designation or existing amenity. So people come up with cinema theater plots, हमको redevelop करना है. Can we do 11? No. Can we do 20B? No. Can we do 19? No. Please understand. You have to learn to say where to say no. Cluster, everything is allowed. Cluster is the family for all. आ जाओ. So 20B is very similar to 11. I will not get much into detail, but I'll go to TOD. TOD is another beautiful scheme. I think that's the future. Up till now, 5 years ago, you were asking me, I was a big advocate of cluster. You see any of my online videos, I would keep harping cluster, cluster, cluster. Now I start harping TOD. Because this is one scheme which will help densify Bombay, reduce parking because only 50% parking of the regular norms are applicable. Size of tenements is only 80 square meters here for the urban local body, and if it's outside it's 120 square meters. That means you are targeting middle income group housing. You are targeting a group where you can make profits, reduce parking, provide them direct access. They may have some vehicles, but they will not need those vehicles. And today with the metro, mono and all those infrastructure projects picking up, 5 years from now, I'm not saying today, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, we will start seeing the benefits of this particular scheme. Mind you all, this particular scheme is going to be the future for redevelopment. It has a 500-meter buffer zone, and in the 500-meter buffer zone, you get the benefits of TOD. 3 scenarios. Your plot is completely within 500 meters. Okay. Your plot is majorly within 500 meters. Then also okay. But if your plot is partially, then it will be in ratio. Ratio of plot which is falling within 500 meters will get TOD benefits. Ratio which does not fall will not get TOD benefits. 50% is the criteria. So if your plot is 1000 meters, if your plot is 600, say 1000 meters, 600 meters fall होता है तो पूरे 1000 पे मिलेगा. लेकिन प्लॉट खाली 300 मीटर गिर रहा है तो 300 पे मिलेगा, 700 पे नहीं मिलेगा. There is a table for that. So this is your TOD. Your plot area 4000 meters, 4000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 20,000 and plot about 20,000. Based on road width 9, 12, 18 and 27 and you are getting FSI up to 7 plus fungible. So a lot of the developers today are going for this particular scheme because large scale society redevelopments can be brought together. You may go for 33.7B, you may go for 20B up to 4 FSI and you can go from 4 to 7 in TOD. You can go cluster development up to 4 FSI and 4 to 7 you can go into premium discount अभी खत्म हो जाएगा एक साल में, but other benefits are there. Your parking is 50%, but जो भी restrictions है of parking and all that is applicable to the FSI of the TOD. If you're taking complete 7 from this, then it's applicable to the entire. If you're taking only difference, it's applicable to the difference. Even premiums are applicable rule wise. अगर 7 भी लिया तो उसके premiums अलग है. अगर 9 किया तो उसके प्रीमियम्स अलग है, 20 भी किया उसका प्रीमियम अलग है, और 23 किया तो उसके प्रीमियम्स अलग है. I have done schemes where a building, there was a group of 20 buildings, 2 buildings were less than 30 years of age. Now it cannot go in cluster development. So 18 buildings we took in cluster on the same plot. 2 buildings we took in 33, regulation 30 plus 20B, and now the entire scheme beyond 4 FSI can go in TOD. So it's a combination of lot of schemes today you can work on. So a right PMC, a right architect can guide you properly as to which schemes you can go for. Larger the plot, lesser the premium, lesser the cost, more the benefits, and it can also be executed fast, because most corporates and other people enter into these kind of projects. They are almost 2,000, 3,000 crore projects, not everybody bandwidth. But if as realtors you can focus on getting aggregation of land, I assure you there are lots of corporates, the top 10 corporates today, who are ready to work with you on a profit sharing basis to come together and do it. They cannot do the ground level work. You have to do the ground level work. So it's very important that you understand these regulations much more in detail. It will help a lot. I have 21 seconds. Anyway, so these are various combinations of schemes that we have done. Whether it's cluster, 7B, 12B, 20B, what are the benefits? I will circulate this particular slide to all of you. It's very difficult to cover the entire DCPR, but we've made a very exhaustive, what are the complexities, what are the criteria, what are the consent criteria, what are the land criteria. All those are tabulated in the last 3 slides. Thank you. And we have an app called Realink. It's a free app. You can just download from either Google App Store or Apple. Every court orders, every notifications, every judgment copy is available on that with a metadata search. And there is a built-in AI, which you can ask questions, it will answer you directly. So you don't have to wait to connect to me. You may ask the questions directly to the AI. Yes, it may have errors, so you may report it back to the email ID provided there. AI starts learning on its own. But it's a very cool, and we've got more than 30,000 people right now using this data. Every day it's almost updated. Every court order you will find there. So whether it's advocates, realtors, anyone can use it. It's absolutely free. Thank you so much.
Amazing, sir. We'll use that technology as well, but also we'll do some in-person homework as well over here. So I hope you're open to that. Can we have a mic passed over here to the gentleman over there, please? Can we have somebody? Yeah, over there to sir, please. And we'll take just 3 quick questions. Please kindly keep it crisp.
Hi,
we'll
I'm
have
a
Sara
developer
answer.
in Goregaon. The company name is The Legends. Just wanted to ask, is this TOD applicable to Mumbai suburban railway stations?
Throughout Bombay, but Metro Line 3 today only.
So not the local train stations?
No, it is not applicable to in India-wise, there is a comparison chart. In Ahmedabad, even BRTS was given TOD. But in India, a lot of areas have been, other railway stations also have been given benefit of this. In Bombay, not the entire metro system, not the monorail system. Only line 3 today has been approved under TOD. We are hoping that as more realtors come together, developers come together, rules keep changing. So keep provisions, not anything can happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, one question. The new scheme of 3313 with the 40-60 scheme. So somebody was telling me that 60% which is IT, ITI is commercial. He's going to do a change of user and convert and give it to me. Do you think that's a possibility?
No.
Yeah,
Hi.
I have a question. Is any scheme under cluster passed in CRZ2 in South Mumbai?
In CRZ2, theoretically cluster can be approved, but because of the FSI benefits not being same as non-CRZ plots, societies don't want to go forward. Okay? So whether it is approved, no. Let me answer the question in flat no. Reason for no is not because BMC is not approving it. It's because you don't want to go forward with lesser incentive. The incentive in CRZ is only 50%, whereas in non-CRZ starts from 85%. Maximum is 85%. Yahan pe 130%. So nobody wants to go for lesser incentive, because if you get lesser incentive, members get lesser incentive. Period. So it's not about CRZ2, but the schemes are not viable today under CRZ.
Thank you. We'll take few more questions.
Yeah. Under section 3319 for commercial on a 27 road width, okay, we get a 5 FSI. Can we get fungi on that?
Fungible, yes, 100%.
So 5 plus fungible is what you can get. On a
Fungible is applicable on every scheme. I don't know why this notion happens, and I get this question very rightly said. Fungible is applicable on every scheme. There is no restriction on fungible. Even on TOD, 7 plus fungible.
All right, thanks.
So in buildings where there are pagdi owners and then there's a landlord, what is the minimum quorum needed for redevelopment?
Can you repeat your question?
In buildings where there are pagdi owners,
3 owners.
pagdi owners,
Pagdi owners,
and then there's a landlord, what is the minimum quorum for redevelopment? And
So-
usually in incentives, how the incentives are shared between both?
When you say pagdi, is it cess building?
Yeah.
So pagdi owner matlab tenants ho gaye, technically.
Correct.
They are not owners, they are tenants. You don't need quorum in tenants. You need 51% consent of the total number of tenants. The entire decision making is not under 79A. This is not a society redevelopment. Landlord decides what he wants to do with his plot. Tenants can't decide. Landlord decides which developer I want to go for. Tenants can't decide. You have to understand the distinguishing rights of a pagdi owner or a tenant versus a society member or a condominium member. They have the right on land. Tenants do not have the right on land. They can only say what they want. There are several judgments which says tenants cannot dictate to landlord who should be the developer. So there is no quorum fundamental at all.
So a lot of gray area in this.
No gray area. Absolutely no gray area. Landlord decides who he wants. He can go with a shitty developer or a good developer. Tenants can ask rent, corpus, area, agree, disagree, 51% consent. Period.
Cheers.
Sir, any hope for heritage precincts like Fort, Marine Drive in shorter?
Heritage precincts have only height restriction, and today, if it's 33.7, because of the restriction, if there is balanced FSI, you get clubbing FSI. Clubbing can be used in 10 kilometers. Believe me, कोई नुकसान नहीं है. आप लेके आओ, feasible बन जाएगा प्रोजेक्ट.
हेलो सर, ये माटुंगा में एक बिल्डिंग है हमारा, ऑलरेडी सोसाइटी को डेवलपमेंट एग्रीमेंट हो गया है. अभी हमारी 7 दुकान है, 7 शॉप्स, वो पकड़ी है पहले से, और सोसाइटी इज़ रजिस्टर्ड, सोसाइटी मतलब ऑनरशिप है सबका. अभी डीएबी हो गया तो उन्होंने सोसाइटी इंसिस्ट करके कि आपका स्टेटस पगड़ी ही रहेगा, मतलब एज अ टेनेंट रहेगा आफ्टर डेवलपमेंट.
Okay.
इज
So
इट?
let us split the question into 2 parts.
या
The first question, I'll repeat his question.
Yeah.
Society है, 7 shops पगड़ी है. That means landlord जो था, उसने सोसाइटी की बिल्डिंग बनाई, अपने राइट्स लैंड के सोसाइटी को दिए, और अपने जो 7 पगड़ी के टेनेंट्स थे जिसको उसने रीडेवलप नहीं किया, वो भी सोसाइटी को दे दिया. सोसाइटी इज अ लैंडलॉर्ड टुडे, हैज अ ड्यूअल रोल.
थोड़ा चेंज है.
Okay.
बिल्डिंग पूरा कन्वेंस कर दिया, लेकिन टेनेंट जो थे उनसे सर्टन अमाउंट मांगा था तो वो नहीं दिया
समझ
उस
गया।
टाइम. એટલે मतलब वो हाँ
एकदम क्लियर है सर.
या
देखो, आपको हिस्ट्री ज्योग्राफी से कोई मतलब नहीं है. आज आप टेनेंट हो,
यस
कोई भी कारण से वो हो, पीरियड. ओके. नाउ सोसाइटी इज द ओनर ऑफ द लैंड. सोसाइटी के पास 7 टेनेंट मेंबर्स हैं. सो मेंबर्स का क्या रोल रहेगा, मतलब इन द सेंस उसकी क्या राइट्स रहेंगी, क्या उनके कंसेंट्स चाहिए, 1, 2, फ्यूचर में रीडेवलपमेंट के बाद क्या उनको ओनरशिप पे फ्लैट जगह मिलेगी या पगड़ी पे मिलेगी. इसके अंदर डिपेंड्स होता है आंसर ऑन रेगुलेशन. इफ दे गो अंडर रेगुलेशन 30, आई विल रिपीट, रेगुलेशन 30 इज where you are buying the FSI and TDR. The society or the landlord is not obligated to give the premises on ownership, not at all. But if he is going redevelopment under 33(7)(b) with 7(a), where he is claiming incentive FSI from the government, because मैं इनको जगह दे रहा हूँ, मुझे इंसेंटिव क्या मिलेगा, 50% इंसेंटिव मिलेगा. तो गवर्नमेंट का बोलते हैं तुझे 50% दे रहा हूँ, तू उनको ओनरशिप पे देगा, तू उनका कंसेंट लेगा. So depending upon the regulation that the society or the landlord is planning to go under, determines whether I need the consent, whether I need to give on ownership or I need to give on pagdi back. Nobody can force me to give ownership if I am buying the FSI and redeveloping the property.
Hello. Under 3313, 60/40, the right over the 40% lies to the developer or the society. Who
Part of your
decides?
DA.
Part of the
your
DA. Okay.
I mean, देखो ये जो 15% भी आपको मिल रहा है 7B के अंदर, belongs to whom? Ultimately, everything belongs to society. What you give to the developer, even this 15% का एक BMC ने एक GR बनाया कि if the developer wants to do the 15%, GBR के अंदर approval चाहिए कि can use this 15% for sale. So society decides the incentive FSI available to them goes to developer or goes for themselves. If it's saying going for themselves, self redevelopment करो. If you think it is so simple, नहीं है तो भाई जो डेवलपर को चाहिए नहीं देंगे तो काम नहीं कर पाएगा.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll take one last question in the best interest of time, please.
Thank you. Regarding the tenant thing that we were discussing, 51% approval is required. That's in terms of the number of tenants or the total area?
Never the total area. Always the number of tenants. Suppose आपके 10 tenant में से 5 tenant के पास हर एक के पास खाली 2 square meter है, 20 फुट, और बाकी के 5 का 2,000 फुट है, तो भी 51% is the total number of consents, has no relevance to the area. This is for tenanted property we are talking about.
Milind bhai, just a small question. Is there a difference between heritage precinct and UN heritage precinct, UNHCR?
UNESCO. UNESCO is not part of DCPR. Only grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 and heritage precinct is part of DCPR. Moment you fall under any of these, DCPR is applicable. But Marine Drive being a UNESCO precinct,
Yes.
height is regulated as a law under precinct by DCPR.
And Mani Bhuvan?
Mani Bhuvan is only a grade 1 structure
Yeah.
and not a precinct.
Thank you so much, sir. I believe any more questions, you can always feel free to connect with him in the networking zone. There will be an open networking at the end of the event, so please stay back with us right till the very end. And I'll request you as well to please kindly remain and give him a bigger round of applause. Come on, he was so interactive throughout, right? Yes.